Alright, in this lecture I'm going to talk about a new concept which is called docstrings. Docstrings are basically a way for us to create little bits of documentation as we are coding along in our function or in our other blocks of code. Now previously we have seen that when we use other functions which are built-in functions in Python like len function, you can see as soon as I open the parentheses I can see a little piece of documentation. So if I just write over here len and open parentheses, you see that the little documentation comes over here, which says that return the number of items in a container. So this is the simple documentation about this function and tells us what this function does. So this piece of documentation is docstring. Now the question is, how can we create same kind of documentations for the functions that we are creating? So by using def strings in our functions, we can tell what our function will do. Now, how can we put docstring inside our functions? We will put it in the first line of code. So when we hit the enter after colon over here, the line that comes over here is the first line in our function. So the docstring has to go first line after the declaration. So here, as you can see, we have defined the name of function and the inputs, then the colon, then after colon, when we hit the enter, the cursor comes to the indented level. Then in this indented level, we can write our docstring. Now to create a docstring, you have to use 3 quotation marks. So you have to put 3 quotation marks like this. So inside 3 quotation marks, I need to write our docstring like this. Now here inside these 3 quotation marks, we can write that this function formats first and last name. Now here, when you are writing your documentation, if you don't have place, you can hit enter and it comes over here inside this docstring over here. Now whenever I call our function one more time, now if I call our function over here, you will see that this definition that we write inside docstring is come over here. So it says that this function formats first and last name. Now as I mentioned, it can be multiple lines of code. So without anything, you can hit enter inside these docstrings over here. But we know that in Python, if you just create a variable, for example, string variable, if I put a string, here inside these quotes, I cannot put enter. In this case, it's not recognizing this as a string. But when we use docstring, we can write as many lines as we want. And it will be interpreted as the same thing all together, as it was fitted on the same line like this. Now with these docstrings, we are able to documenting our functions and giving each function a little bit explainer. Now in Python, you can also use this triple quotation as multiple line comment. Now, as I mentioned, when we write the comment, for example, I want to write sample comment over here, if I hit enter, it's going to go to the codeless line. So we cannot put multiple comments with this sign over here. Now, as I mentioned, you can use this triple quotation as multiple comments lines. So we can put something like this. So if I hit enter how many times that I want, whatever I write inside this triple quotation is going to be recognized as comment. But in the official documentation of the Python, it says that it's advisable to avoid multiple comments like this. What's actually much easier, just to write multiple comment, then we just need to highlight the code that we want to comment and hit command / on Mac and control / on Windows. That's a much better way of differentiating the comment from the actual piece of the code. Now with this, we have come to the end of this lecture. So in this lecture, we have discussed how can we add docstrings into our functions or code blocks over here. So hopefully everything is clear about docstrings.